Hello everybody, James S here, also known as Agent J. Now, today I'm showing you a Blender tutorial. Blender is a 3D rendering sort of animation program. It's a piece of software that's free. You can get it for free at the link below. So yeah, this is just a quick tutorial on what you do with Blender, and how to do 3D text. It's really simple. 3D text is something that I render quite a lot. I don't animate it yet. I'm not that good yet, but I certainly can make 3D text. So there's a number of options here to get rid of this little box. You can press X first. If you select it, it'll be selected, but if you right click on anything, if you right click on the lamp here or the camera, if you right click on the box and you either press X and click delete, or you can just press X and X again, or you can press delete and it brings up the same option, then you can delete that silly box. And that box is standard. It always appears in every single Blender window that you open. Now if you press Shift and A, you'll get this options: mesh, curve, surface, meta ball, all these different bits and pieces, guys. Press text for yeah, there you go. You see, it's added in text. Now the good thing to remember about 3D software is that it's on a 3D plane. So as you can see here, I mean, this area here is the bottom of our screen. That's where our camera is. If I just switch to camera view, this is what the camera can see, and this is what's going to be rendered when we choose to save our file or export our file as a .png or a .jpeg file. But this is just a really basic tutorial. So the objects all exist on the 3D plane. As you can see, there are three arrows. You can move your items up and down. There's a green arrow, you can move it in this direction, and there's a red arrow, so you can move it in this direction. Now you can press R to rotate by a certain amount. I'm just going to put it back to where it was because that's the easiest, and I'm going to move it into camera view. Now it's already in camera view, so I'm just going to right click and drag and press left click to set it. Then using this menu on the right, I don't know if you can see it, I'm going to just enhance it a little bit. This menu, you can indeed rotate things like objects and text, like so. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the rotation of the x-axis to 90 degrees, so it stands straight up, and the rotation of the z-axis to the 45 degree, so it actually faces the camera. Now at this moment in time, I'm not too worried about where it is on the 3D plane, so long as it's not below this grid, because if it's down here, say, but it's still in camera view, but it's below the grid, the rendering software has a really hard time sort of figuring out what to do, and it gets kind of confused, and you'll end up with something totally different than what you probably want. Right, okay, so we've got our text. The second thing we have to do, now it's in camera view and we know where it is, you press 0 to go to camera view on your number pad keys. We want to change the font immediately because Blender has given you a very basic default font, but it's not very good. And if you don't know how to get to your fonts, it's usually in your C drive, in your Windows folder, and then in your Windows folder you select fonts. I do not recommend touching anything else in the Windows folder because a lot of stuff can go wrong. That's where your operating system's held, that's where all your super important files are held. You touch anything and you could kill your computer. So let's not touch that. We're just going to select a font here. And I'm going to choose one that's, I don't really know. I'm just going to choose one, and oh no, that one's not very good. It takes some practice. Some of them are very similar. Yeah, see, now there you go. That's a nice font. So now what we want to do, now that we've got our font, is we want to make it three-dimensional. Making it three-dimensional is really easy. All you have to do is look at the geometry window here of the font box, or the font text thing. And the offset is how offset the text is from itself, basically. Don't really use that too often, to be honest, because it usually ends up in some really bizarre ways. Like you can offset it so it's like thin as a stick, or offset it so it's like yeah, it's not a good option. So we're gonna leave that option at 0. Now the extrude value is the main three-dimensional aspect of this software for text. Anyway, now you can just sort of you can extrude it, and then, as you can see, I'm up to 0.050, and already we've got 3dText. It's not very impressive, but it's 3dText nonetheless. I'm going to actually edit this text. To edit the text, you press Tab, and then you backspace, 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 and that just it's like editing anything really, any sort of Word document or anything, other word processing software is available. So we're just going to type in I don't know, treachery. No, I didn't mean to do that. Press Tab again to leave editing mode, otherwise you'll continue typing when you try and change the camera view like I just did. And as you can see, in our camera view we've got treachery in awesome writing, and it's also in 3D. But what I'm going to do is to really emphasize the three-dimensional aspect. I'm going to set it to 0.1. There you go. That's quite bold now. So that's the extrude value. Now the bevel depth is sort of, let me show you. If I set it to 0.1, yeah, see, now that's how it does it. It sort of adds extra aspects to the text. However, this looks a bit weird, doesn't it? It's because there's an awful lot of errors. See, when you're using bevel and extrude, some fonts, more than others, are going to get small errors in their generations. And these errors are quite easy to fix. I've seen them do it. You need a wireframe to do it. I can't do it because I'm still learning. But if you just hold back on the bevel a little bit, if you just sort of bring it back, bring it back, bring it back. So we've gone from 0.1 down to 0.50, and you can see it's a little bit better, but they're still there. So if you wanted to edit it, you could probably go into wireframe mode and change it, but I'm just going to, for the ease of this, I'm just going to bring it all the way back, so all of the errors are gone, and all the errors disappear at 0.030. That's brilliant. So now it's time for the resolution. Now, the higher the resolution, the smoother the edges are going to be, because the bevel actually adds edges. So the resolution smooths out those edges and retains the sort of shininess of them for light, for mirroring, and so on. And you can see that actually, if we zoom really close, that the edges are really, really fine. Of this T here, they're really fine. If I just drop back on the resolution, oh man, we're all the way back to that horrible, maybe nice, sharp edges. So the resolution smooths out those curves and makes it look much nicer. So I'm going to use a resolution of 20 here because that's really high actually, but I work with really high quality resolutions. My computer can handle it. I recommend maybe resolution 3 or 4 to start off with until maybe you get used to it. So now that we've got our 3D rendered text, we want to change the color. Now, it took me forever to figure out how to change the color on it. What you have to do is go to this window up here. Now, up here you've got loads of different options, camera, all this. We're looking at this one here, the materials button. If you press new, and you get a new sort of list. Now, the diffuse color here, we're going to leave this alone for now. It's just a Lambertian shader. That's the shader. You can install other shaders, but here you'll find the color palette, and you can change the color palette in various ways to make your text different colors. I'm going to make it blue, or well, more purple than blue really. And if you just come out and leave it, that's it. Then all we have to do is render our project. So we go to this little camera, we click render, and it renders our text. Now, as you can see, I've got the light in the wrong place, but I'm not really worried about that at the moment. Once it's rendered and you have your finished product, press F3, and then you can save your file to anywhere. Please remember that before you do that, if you want to save as a different file format to PNG, you have to go down to this menu here and actually select your file format. I usually do JPEG, but I'm just going to do it in BMP because That's just the test video. So I'm going to render it in BMP. I'm going to press F3, and I'm going to save it to my documents as video1.bmp, and it's going to save that image, and that's it. Thank you so much for watching my Blender 3D text tutorial. I'll be back later with some more excellent tutorials. Thanks for joining me. Please like, subscribe, and comment if you enjoyed.